What are the 10 timeless fashion pieces worth investing in this autumn? 1. The tailored wool coat. This is one of the best investment pieces you could ever buy for your autumn wardrobe. And if you buy really carefully, following a few of these style tips, you should absolutely have it for life. So first of all, one of the most important factors to consider is it sitting properly on your shoulders? If it's sitting neatly here and not jutting out in any strange positions, that's a really good place to start. When it comes to tailored coats and wanting as much longevity as possible, I would advise going for a classic silhouette. Now, I personally prefer a really long tailored wool coat. However, I know that if you're a little bit more petite, that length might feel a little bit overwhelming for you. So for the petite women out there, I would advise a midi length or perhaps even a tailored wool coat that's sort of sitting mid-thigh. For those who are a little bit taller, you can absolutely get away with the longer versions too that do feel really elegant. When it comes to colours with your tailored wool coat, I think going neutral is your safest bet. A wool coat is going to be one of the most expensive investment pieces you will add into your wardrobe. So unless you are a multi-millionaire, I would advise going neutral with that piece. It's going to stand the test of time, it's never going to look out of date. Whereas if you went for a coat in, say, one of the big colour trends this particular autumn winter, I don't know, the lime green or the orange, shall we say, that coat is more than likely going to date pretty quick, which isn't so bad if you spent under £100, but it would kind of hurt a bit if you'd spent a few hundred. You want to look for classic notch or peak lapels. They generally work the best with the majority of outfits. And pockets as well, I would make sure they look pretty sleek and you've not got any strange bulk there with external flaps. In terms of fabric composition, obviously 100% cashmere would be a divine choice and we would all love to wear that on any given day. However, it's not exactly budget friendly for the masses, and equally is probably not the most practical either. However, opting for a wool blend is a much more affordable option. I would just be conscious to try and opt for the maximum amount of wool content that you possibly can within your own budget. For me personally, I prefer an unlined wool coat or perhaps a double-faced one. It just feels very sleek and minimal and really elegant actually at the same time. Now, when it comes to those timeless fashion pieces that I think are really worth the investment in autumn, I don't think you can ever go wrong with a really beautiful cozy cardigan. There's some really chic options across the high street and with the independent designers at the moment. And of course, like all of my timeless pieces I've chosen in my top 10, buy well and you should have it forever. Now, one of my main priorities when choosing the perfect cozy cardigan would have to be prioritizing yarn composition. The trick is in the name there, you want it cozy, so it's all about which type of yarn you actually go for. Now again, a little bit like the coat, the creme de la creme, shall we say, is to go for 100% cashmere. But whereas a coat in 100% cashmere could end up getting pretty pricey, it is possible to find some really affordable cashmere cardigans across the high street and with the independents. Alpaca is another option. It's a lot more affordable than 100% cashmere and it feels really super snuggly soft. Mohair I probably wouldn't choose for one of those super timeless pieces because it's quite trend-led in both its appearance and its feel, so it doesn't necessarily work with everything. Now, when choosing that perfect cardigan for your autumn wardrobe, I would make sure you keep reminding yourself, will it layer really easily? Because that's the whole point of a cardigan, for me at least, is its layering potential within those outfits. And if the cardigan you've picked up is a little bit too chunky, or it's just an odd length, it's a bit too long, or it's a bit too short, it's probably going to be difficult to layer. So thinking about the layering options you could do with the other pieces you've got in your wardrobe will really help for that piece to become very versatile. I always save a larger portion of my clothes budget to spend on a beautiful pair of wide leg trousers in autumn. I just find them incredibly versatile, really comfy to wear, and ultimately very much my own personal style. In autumn, I would say look out for thicker fabrics, either made from wool, a blend of wool, or perhaps if it's even colder where you are, maybe moving into velvet, which will then work equally well for Christmas time too. By choosing those thicker fabrics, not only will it add warmth, but it will also help those trousers to retain their structure and their shape as well. My next style tip would be to think really carefully about not only the fit, but also the cut. So by opting for a high waist, that's going to really help elongate your shape, but they're also going to work really nicely with, say, a cropped cardigan or perhaps a jumper or cardigan that's going to sit about hip bone. I would also make sure it's fitting really nicely at your waistband. You don't want any of those big sort of sags here as you go into the dent of your back. That's just going to look really messy and it won't be very flattering for your silhouette. Now, depending on how you intend to use your investment pair of trousers, you can opt for different lengths. So if you like, or perhaps you need to dress a little bit more formal for work or for the weekends, I would say opt for something longer. If, however, your style is pretty casual and you don't need to dress up as such for the office, you could opt for something cropped. Then when we think about the shape, I would say an exaggerated wide leg, which I do have a couple of pairs. They're going to make more of a statement, but you could also opt for a subtle wide leg, which is just going to have a bit more of a classic look. One thing I would be really mindful of with your own tailored trousers is to make sure once you've got that outfit together that you're careful about your proportions, mainly with your shoes, to be honest with you. If you've gone for a big chunky knit that's cropped on your top half, then you've got a pretty wide leg. You want to balance out that shape with your shoes that you go for on your bottom half too. So really think about all those elements, literally from the very top of you down to your very toes. A silky blouse would definitely have to be in my top 10 for those timeless investment pieces I would choose in autumn. And actually, not just autumn, definitely into winter too with this one. Going for 100% silk with a blouse like this is of course a beautiful option if it's within budget. However, if it's not, there's some really sustainable fabrics like Tencel Lyocell, which will have that silky drape too at a fraction of the price. Collars and ties can add really nice sophisticated details, but I would make sure, certainly if you're looking for really timeless investment pieces, that you make sure those details are subtle. Anything too big or too flouncy or too in your face isn't really going to have the longevity that we're after. Either a very simple classic button down will absolutely do the trick, or one of my personal favorites, going for a bow blouse. I actually did the action there, sorry. With these investment pieces, you're looking for versatility, high quality, and wearability. And on top of that, will it mix and match with the pieces you've already got? I do love a tailored blazer or 5. I would always have a blazer in my timeless top 10 pieces to invest in. And actually, if you're only looking to invest in one timeless piece, I would probably say it would have to be a blazer. You absolutely do not need as many as I have. I have that many because it's my job to talk about fashion. But having that one beautiful blazer in your wardrobe, a blazer that could work with so many different outfit ideas and always make you look timeless and elevated, is, I believe, a really good investment piece. A little bit like wool coats, I would just make sure that it's sitting really nicely on your shoulders, but equally at the same time, it's not feeling too stiff. When it comes to the length, I would say hip length is obviously the most classic option. Slightly longer than that would feel a little bit more on trend, but there's no right or wrong between them. I would just make sure that, again, you balance out your proportions depending on which one you go for. Neutral tones, of course, are the way to go, but like you'll see with these blazer outfit ideas I'm showing you, neutral in no way, shape or form has to mean boring. Instead of focusing on bright colors, you could go for that interest with the subtle details, with beautiful buttons or a really nice lapel, or the fabric composition being something a little bit different. And actually a really good figure that I tend to do, and you can change the figure accordingly to suit your own budget. But for me personally, I kind of say to myself, if it's under £100, I don't mind going for something a little bit different or trend-led. If it's over £100, then I'm spending a little bit more, and I want to make sure it's in a classic tone that I'm going to have for years. I would always find a great pair of straight leg jeans an absolute essential for a timeless wardrobe. So it really makes sense for me to invest in something that I wear an awful lot. So a few style tips I would recommend for you when investing in the perfect pair of jeans. Now, denim composition will make a big difference. Opting for 100% cotton is going to have the most structure to that pair of jeans, and it's probably the most classic and traditional. Plus it ages really well, but it is going to feel a little bit more stiff. But on the flip side, going for a pair of straight leg jeans that have got say 1 to 2% elastin in them is going to feel more comfortable for you to wear. So it does feel like a good compromise between wearability and something really stylish. Now, in terms of the fit, going for a mid or a high rise does tend to elongate pretty much everyone's body shape, so that can be a really flattering look. And I would also be mindful about how much fabric you've got going on at the hem. Too much fabric could look bulky and perhaps a little bit scruffy, which isn't going to look timeless. And my favorite kind of straight leg jeans fit all the way down and are just grazing the top of your shoes. Now, when it comes to shopping for jeans, as you've probably gathered, it can be really, really difficult because one brand's straight leg jeans can be another brand's slim, and their wide leg jeans could be somebody else's straight. So it gets really, really confusing. Hence why a lot of people say that the hardest piece to buy for your own wardrobe is a pair of jeans. However, I have happily done the research for you, and in the description box, I have added a good selection for different price points of my favorite pairs of straight leg jeans I found from the high street, but also going up to some of those designer options too. Now, if you don't already, I would say shopping for those timeless basics with the same attention to detail that you would for, say, your timeless wool coat will absolutely always pay off in the look of your outfit ideas in the end.
Sorry everyone, my camera just completely quit on me, so I've had to switch to my other one. Anyway, where were we? So yes, in spring, summer, I will always invest in a really high quality short sleeve t-shirt. But then come autumn, I will switch to the longer sleeves, and then in winter, I will go on to thermals. But I do use both as a layering piece underneath my knitwear, both from an aesthetic point of view because I like that look, but also from a practical point of view. Sometimes all the knitwear, especially when we suddenly start wearing it, can get a little bit itchy. But by layering with a long sleeve t-shirt underneath, you can get a nicer feel. So as I mentioned there, I would always opt for organic cotton if that's within budget. It's a lot more sustainable than traditional cotton, and it feels really lovely against your skin too. Merino is hugely breathable throughout autumn, winter, and it keeps you super toasty and warm as well. With thermals, I would always cut out all of those labels because it's an item that's sitting really, really close to your skin, and even a label could become quite scratchy and itchy against your skin. 8. The knee-length skirt. Now, while I'm not personally a huge skirt wearer, I do absolutely think having at least one beautiful wear with everything to everything skirt in your wardrobe is a brilliant investment in autumn. So if you wear more skirts than I do, here's a few style tips for finding the perfect investment one for you. So when it comes to the shape, I would say midi lengths are generally the most versatile. And on the whole, they're pretty seasonless too. And plus as well, when you think about the outfit ideas you're going to make with that skirt, they will work really nicely with something that's sitting pretty high on your waist as much as they would with a big oversized knit. And when you find a good one that just skims over your hips in all the right places, it can create a really, really nice silhouette. Now, I think it's fair to say I am a little bit of a loungewear obsessive. I just love that feeling of wrapping myself up in beautiful loungewear and snuggling up with a nice glass of wine when I finish work. See, I've got the whole scene set out. It's all about the comfort factor while feeling timeless and elegant at the same time. So thinking of fabric compositions, the creme de la creme would of course be luxury loungewear made from 100% cashmere. Merino, of course, is a lovely but more affordable alternative. And then of course, you've got organic cotton, modal jersey, and actually, as we get further into winter, I do love a little bit of silk velvet too. Now, a really easy trick to make your loungewear look more elegant and timeless, no matter what budget you have to spend on it, is to go with a tonal outfit overall. So essentially, choose your loungewear pieces, your jumper and your joggers in one long column of color. And then the icing on the cake with that look would be to opt for a neutral tone, and the overall vibe of that outfit will just naturally feel more sophisticated as a result. Yeah, not when you're walking in the room, I can't relax. He doesn't make me relaxed. Him and his noisy music stressing me out. So yes, my point being, I think luxury loungewear is actually really for medicinal purposes. Now, the one piece I would say is always forever timeless in your wardrobe would have to be the slip dress. While lace trims are particularly on trend at the moment, I wouldn't choose your slip dress based on that alone because it's likely to be so-called out of fashion in a season or two. But if you happen to find the perfect slip dress for you, and it happens to have a bit of a lace trim on it, well then happy bonus with that. Going for a slip dress that's cut on the bias will be altogether more flattering, as that's just going to skim over your natural curves and stop it from feeling too boxy. I would also look out for adjustable straps because that's just going to give you a bit more versatility and enable you to layer different items underneath it. If you are between sizes, I would highly advise sizing up instead of going true to size. Tight slip dresses, a little bit like midi skirts, can look really, really bad if they're too tight. But if they're just ever so slightly too big, they will still make a really lovely shape. And as it happens, this is a knee slip dress in my wardrobe that I just spoiled myself to. It does happen to have a little trim of lace on it and be in this season's chocolate brown. However, the important thing, as we talked about before, I didn't choose it for those reasons. Right, I realized that was a whole lot of talking, but I had so many style tips to share, so hopefully you found that helpful. Do let me know in the comments which style tip you think is the most useful, which one do you think you'll be reaching for, and equally, which of these 10 timeless investment pieces would you find the most valuable in your own wardrobe? It's always really lovely hearing from you all in the comments. As I mentioned at the beginning, the best way to support me and my channel is to subscribe. I create longer videos on a Sunday and my YouTube shorts are throughout the week, but there's lots and lots of outfit ideas and inspiration going through all of the seasons throughout the year. And one more thing, if you don't mind, I would be very, very grateful for all your likes and hypes. I don't even know what a hype is, but I think it's important. So if you could do it, that'd be great. Have a wonderful week, everyone. I shall see you again on Sunday. Take care.